A household saving 15% of its income could need almost 20 years to build a traditional deposit in Hong Kong or Sydney. Vancouver and San Jose can demand around 15. Even London can approach a decade. And this calculation assumes home prices stop rising while the buyer saves. They usually do not. Lower deposit programs can shorten the wait, but they replace the deposit problem with a larger mortgage. So which cities have turned the first 20% of a home into the hardest part of ownership? The mortgage normally takes the blame for keeping people out of the housing market. But long before a bank approves a 30-year loan, buyers hit a much earlier wall. They have to accumulate a massive pile of initial cash while continuing to pay for rent, food, transport, and childcare. Look at how this initial target scales with property values. A 20% deposit on a $250,000 home requires $50,000 in cash. But push that property price to $1 million, and the buyer has to save $200,000. Both households might easily qualify to make monthly mortgage payments, but only one can actually assemble the starting cash on a normal salary. To measure exactly how high this wall has grown, we are running the global housing market through one consistent test. We take a city's representative median home price divided by the median household income. The household targets a standard 20% deposit, and they manage to save exactly 15% of their gross income every single year. This strict calculation does not track every individual buyer's exact timeline. Family gifts, investment returns, and cheaper apartments exist. What this model does is measure the underlying system. It isolates exactly what happens when average earnings collide with representative property prices. We start in London. The representative home here costs about 7.5 times the median household income. Run that through our model, and accumulating a 20% deposit requires a decade of continuous saving. For a solo buyer, that 10-year burden is carried entirely on one income. And the advertised deposit is rarely the final cash requirement. Buyers also have to save for legal fees, inspections, and stamp duty, a mandatory property purchase tax, pushing the true cash target thousands of dollars higher. Auckland yields a similar result. With a price-to-income multiple near 8, the mathematical wait stretches to 10 years and 8 months. To escape this timeline, first-home buyers often abandon the city's traditional detached houses and compromise on smaller townhouses or apartments. A housing market does not need to set world records to lock out a generation. A moderate multiple of 8, paired with a realistic savings capacity, consumes a full decade of a household's financial life. Moving up the scale brings us to San Jose. Despite the region's famously high technology salaries, a representative home still costs 11.5 times the median income. The model pushes the required saving period to 15 years. The local market operates on 2 separate tracks. A household relying entirely on a standard salary faces that grueling 15-year grind, but a household receiving equity compensation bypasses the monthly math entirely through sudden stock payouts, creating a distinct advantage for a specific type of worker. Vancouver shares that 11.5 multiple, resulting in a 15-year and 4-month wait. This extended timeline exposes buyers to another major mathematical headwind: deposit inflation. This animation shows how rising prices penalize savers. If a household needs a $160,000 deposit and saves $20,000 in a year, they feel close. But if the property value rises 5% in that same year, the required deposit rises by $8,000. The household made $20,000 of effort, but only gained $12,000 of real ground. When the target requires 15 years of discipline, relying purely on a monthly paycheck leaves a buyer highly exposed. Property values can easily rise fast enough to mathematically erase a year of financial progress while the household sleeps. Sydney pushes the multiple to 13.5. Under our consistent model, the wait hits 18 years. You will find local reports estimating shorter wait times, often around 7 or 8 years, but those calculations typically rely on dual-income couples, specifically targeting cheaper entry-level properties. We are testing the strict median. Sydney also demonstrates how rent actively suffocates progress. A household can spend thousands of dollars a month just to keep a roof over their heads, severely restricting their ability to accumulate the hundreds of thousands required for the bank. Hong Kong produces the most extreme result in the global test. Representative affordability studies place the median home at 15 times median income. A 20% deposit demands 3 full years of total gross household income, requiring 20 years of saving. Keep in mind, this 2-decade sacrifice is not securing a sprawling detached house. Given Hong Kong's extreme density and high land values, the ultimate target is frequently a hyper-compact apartment. At this end of the scale, the relationship between ordinary income and housing access completely fractures. Saving a portion of your salary is no longer enough to secure a median home within a reasonable time frame. Buyers try to shortcut the math using 5% minimum deposit schemes. On a $600,000 property, the $120,000 wall shrinks to $30,000. The years of waiting collapse instantly. But the missing cash doesn't disappear. The mortgage burden immediately explodes from $480,000 to $570,000. Lower deposit programs trade a timing problem for severe debt risk. The household takes on higher monthly payments and mandatory mortgage insurance fees. Worse, they face the immediate danger of negative equity, a situation where even a minor drop in property values leaves the buyer owing the bank more than the house is actually worth. The second major workaround is family wealth. Take 2 households earning the exact same salary. Household A receives a $150,000 family gift. Household B receives nothing. Household A steps onto the property ladder on day 1, immediately gaining equity and benefiting from price appreciation. Household B runs on the rental treadmill for a decade, trying to save. By the time the unassisted buyers finally piece together their deposit, the wealth gap between 2 identical earners has widened permanently. This chart stacks the final results of the global model. Auckland and London steal roughly a decade of savings capacity. Vancouver and San Jose demand a grueling 15 years. And Sydney and Hong Kong present a wall approaching 2 decades. In the world's least affordable cities, the deposit represents the portion of the home that must be purchased from past wealth rather than future income. At MoneyMap, we look past the size of your savings to see where that money is actually working.